She was drunk when she confessed. I was never really attracted to you, and I can't stop seeing other men. Her words struck me like a slap. Before she could say anything else, she passed out. By sunrise, my mind was made up. I disappeared without a note, without a goodbye. My name is Phil, and I've always believed that hard work could solve almost anything. It was how I was raised. Keep your head down, put in the effort, and everything else would fall into place. That mindset shaped my life, especially my marriage. For as long as I could remember, my days were a blur of meetings, deadlines, and negotiations. I poured myself into work, waking up early and pushing through exhausting hours, believing that I was building a secure future for us. By the time I got home, I was too drained to do more than offer a tired goodnight. But I thought it was worth it. When I wasn't working, she was always on my mind. How to make her happy, how to give her the life she deserved. I brought her gifts from my business trips, planned weekend getaways to make up for lost time. I knew it wasn't perfect, but I thought she understood. Love wasn't about perfection. It was about showing up and trying. At least, that's what I believed. Looking back now, I see where I went wrong, but at the time, I thought working harder meant loving harder. Lately, though, something had felt off. She barely acknowledged me anymore. At first, I brushed it aside. We'd only been married for 2 years. I figured we were just settling into the routine of married life. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. I didn't want to admit it, so I convinced myself she was just stressed, tired, or going through a rough patch. I thought if I just put in more effort, if I showed her how much I cared, things would go back to the way they were. I truly believed love and commitment could fix anything. I was wrong. When I realized the distance between us was growing, I decided to take action. I thought a romantic evening might help us reconnect. Maybe I was being naive, but I believed in trying. I spent the entire afternoon preparing. I cooked her favorite meal, chicken parmesan with garlic mashed potatoes, the same dish I had made on our first date. I set the table with candles, dimmed the lights just right, and played a soft, slow playlist of the songs she used to love. It was my way of saying, I see you, I miss you, and I'm trying. When she walked in, she looked surprised. Wow, she murmured, her eyes scanning the table. For a brief moment, I thought I saw something in her expression. Gratitude, maybe. She kissed my cheek, sat down, and smiled. Dinner started off well. The conversation flowed naturally, light and easy. She complimented the food, teased me about being a better cook than her. For the first time in months, she laughed, really laughed. And in that moment, I let myself believe that we could find our way back to each other. Then came the third glass of wine. She started to loosen up, leaning back in her chair, her words coming slower, freer. At first, I thought nothing of it. Then she set her glass down, looked at me and said, "You're a nice guy. You always make sure I'm okay. That's why I'm here with you." Something in my chest tightened. "What do you mean?" I asked, keeping my voice steady even as my stomach twisted. She laughed softly, but there was pity in her eyes. "I mean, I've never really been attracted to you. Not like that." Her words hit me like a freight train, but she wasn't finished. She leaned forward, resting her chin on her hand, as if telling me some casual, insignificant truth. "You're sweet, gentle, safe, but you're not my type." Then she described what her type was: someone rougher with an edge, someone unpredictable, reckless, the complete opposite of me. And as if that wasn't enough, she dropped the final blow. When I met him, my type, I just couldn't resist. One thing led to another. She trailed off, but she didn't need to finish. I already knew what she was saying. I sat there, nodding like a fool, as my wife confessed a truth that shattered me. My chest felt tight, like I couldn't breathe, but I kept my face calm. I didn't react. I just absorbed it all, piece by agonizing piece, that I remained composed, but inside, something inside me snapped. This wasn't an apology. not even a hint of remorse, just a drunken excuse, as if she expected me to understand why she had betrayed me. And in that instant, I realized there was no need to argue, no need to raise my voice. I simply needed to let her finish and then decide my next move. That night, as I lay in bed, I knew there was no turning back. Her words echoed in my mind. How I wasn't her type, how she stayed with me because I was a nice guy, how she had found what she truly wanted elsewhere. It wasn't just a betrayal that hurt. It was the casual way she admitted it. Listening to her soft snores in the darkness, I didn't feel anger, only clarity. Fighting with her wouldn't change a thing. She had shown me exactly who she was, and I believed her. Confronting her would only give her a chance to justify herself, and she didn't deserve that satisfaction. She didn't deserve a fight or closure. What she deserved was to experience life without me. By the time the sun rose, my decision was made. I wouldn't be there when she woke up. I'm not someone who acts on impulse. When I make a move, I do it with precision. That morning, I left the house as I always did, calmly, deliberately, giving no indication that anything was amiss. But this time, I wasn't coming back. My first call was to my lawyer. I instructed him to draft the divorce papers, ensuring everything was arranged to separate my life from hers. Next, I contacted my accountant. He was sharp, efficient, and within hours, he had begun liquidating my shares in our joint investments. By the end of the day, my accounts were cleared and I had full control over my assets. Then I called my family. I didn't go into details, there was no need. I only told them one thing. Do not entertain her. Do not tell her where I am. If she calls, give her nothing. I wanted her to face the full weight of what she had done, with no one there to soften the impact. Finally, I left a message with my lawyer, one she would receive when she inevitably tried to contact me. The divorce papers would be served soon, with no explanations, no apologies. Just the cold, undeniable truth of what she had lost. A few weeks later, the papers were delivered. My lawyer informed me that she had tried reaching out, calls, emails, even showing up at his office. I ignored it all. She begged for an explanation, but what more was there to say? She already knew the truth. At first, she resisted signing the papers. She hesitated, dragged her feet. Maybe she thought she could salvage what was left. Or maybe she simply didn't want to lose the security I had provided. But when she saw the financial settlement, she gave in. I wasn't surprised. She had always put herself first. And just like that, our chapter ended. When I walked away from that marriage, I wasn't thinking about her future. I just wanted to be free. Free from her lies, her indifference, her complete disregard for me. I told myself she could have the life she wanted. And for a while, it seemed like she did. She embraced her newfound freedom. She went out more, indulged in shopping sprees, surrounded herself with distractions. She joked about finally living the life she deserved. But people like her never think beyond the moment. She thought freedom meant doing whatever she pleased without consequence. Life doesn't work that way. Eventually, reality caught up with her. She ended up pregnant. I heard about it through a mutual acquaintance, someone who still couldn't resist sharing gossip. Apparently, it wasn't planned, not that I expected it to be. And the father? The moment she told him, he vanished. No calls, no messages. Just gone. She was left to deal with it alone. And that wasn't the only problem. The settlement money? She burned through it recklessly. By the time the baby arrived, she was drowning in debt. She had to sell our old house. Her house. At that point, it was the last remnant of the life we once shared. Then came her so-called friends. The ones who had flocked to her when life was fun, when she was carefree and reckless. But people like her attract the same kind of people. Shallow, self-serving, only around for the good times. When she started needing help, money, babysitting, even just a shoulder to lean on, they all disappeared, one by one. She had gotten exactly what she thought she wanted. Freedom. But that kind of freedom always comes with a price. She lost everything that mattered because she never truly valued it. But did I feel sorry for her? No. I wasn't sitting somewhere reveling in her downfall either. I simply didn't care. She was just a chapter one had closed. Some people think they're escaping something when in reality, they're running straight into disaster. That was her. She ran, and when she hit rock bottom, there was no one left to catch her. Years passed. My life moved forward, not in some dramatic, cinematic way, but steadily and quietly. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. Then, one day, she found me. I was home, seated by the window with a book in hand, when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone, but when I opened the door, there she stood. She hadn't changed much, still well put together, carrying herself with the same confidence I once admired. Her eyes locked onto mine, searching for a reaction. Seeing her again stirred nothing in me but cold indifference. I had no idea how she tracked me down, and I didn't care. All I felt was disgust. She hesitated for a moment, waiting for permission to speak, but I gave her none. Finally, she began, her voice fragile, trembling. "I've been looking for you for years," she admitted, voice low and unsteady. "I needed to tell you how sorry I am. I made a terrible mistake, and I've paid for it every single day since." She paused, waiting for me to say something, but I remained silent, leaning against the doorframe, watching her unravel. "I thought I could have it all," she continued, wringing her hands. "I thought I could find excitement elsewhere and still keep you. But I was wrong. I didn't realize what I had until it was gone." Her words tumbled out, desperate, unfiltered. She spoke of failed relationships, financial struggles, the crushing loneliness. Then, she admitted something I hadn't expected. She was left pregnant and alone. Tears streaked down her face as she whispered, "Please, I need you. I've never stopped needing you." I leaned in, meeting her eyes with unwavering steadiness. This wasn't a conversation. It was the end of one. "You made your choice," I said, my voice firm and composed. "Remember, I wasn't your type. So go find your type. See if he wants you now." She flinched as if my words had struck her, but I wasn't finished. "I don't care about your regrets. I don't care about your suffering. That's your burden to bear, not mine. Don't ever come here again." Then, without another glance, I stepped back, shut the door, and walked away. I didn't need her explanations, her guilt, or her apologies. That part of my life was over, and I had no reason to reopen it. As I moved away from that door, I thought about the man I had become. Losing her had hurt. It had shattered me in ways I didn't think possible. But it also forced me to rebuild, and I was still rebuilding. Sometimes, the greatest lesson you can teach someone who betrays you is your absence. And sometimes, the best thing you can do for yourself is to walk away and never look back. In losing her, I found myself, and that I realized was the only closure I would ever need. So, let me ask you, if you were in my shoes, what would you have done? Really think about it. You plan a romantic evening, hoping to reignite a spark in your marriage, only for your wife, the woman you swore to spend your life with, to tell you, between casual sips of wine, that you were never her type, that she had been with other men behind your back. What would you do? Would you stay and fight for someone who doesn't even value you? Or would you walk away? I'm not here to tell anyone what's right or wrong. But let me share something I learned the hard way. If someone shows you that they don't respect you or your love, stop making excuses for them. Don't let their lack of appreciation erode your self-worth. The truth is, people treat you the way you allow them to. If they betray you once and you let it slide, they will do it again. And it only gets worse. Leaving isn't easy. It's painful, messy, and, yeah, it's lonely at first. But think long-term. Maybe you're afraid of starting over, of being alone. But let me tell you, being alone is far better than being with someone who makes you feel like you're not enough. And when you finally walk away from someone who doesn't value you, you open the door for something better. even if that better is simply finding peace within yourself. Thanks for listening.